Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Suzette Speaks Show. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Suzette Speaks. I am a TV host and attorney out of Miami, Florida. And if you are brand new to this channel, welcome. If you are watching me on Facebook, come on through. I am so excited to do this show today. I was up late last night watching the returns of the United States Senate runoff race in Georgia. If you know how important this seat was, like many of us who follow politics or who are interested in what's going on around the country, you know that this was a pivotal 51st seat in the United States Senate, won by the incumbent. The Reverend Senator, or some people are calling him the Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock, was successful in his bid to retain his United States Senate seat from the great state of Georgia. And if I am not alone in this, I was really kind of shocked at the election results. I wanted to give you some of my reaction as to why it was so close. I think sometimes we overlook that Georgia has its own storied history, right? It is a southern state that has changed a lot, I would say, and especially the last 10 years, thanks to organizers who are on the ground, who are helping to register people, and also because of the movement of people into Atlanta. Atlanta has grown almost sevenfold over the last 30 or so years. People have come from all over the country, and it's a much more diverse body of residents than have ever lived in the state before. But we're going to talk a little bit about the win, and I want to hear your opinion if you were up like me watching Mr. Warnock, the Reverend Senator Warnock, give his acceptance speech. If you were watching Herschel Walker give, I guess, what you call a conciliation speech as well, you would know that there was so much emotion in both rooms. No matter if you are not a fan, I'm going to put it out there. A lot of people had taken issue with the candidacy of Mr. Walker and what he represented and how he seemed not to be as prepared, quite frankly, for this seat as Reverend Warnock, and why it mattered to voters, whether or not it did, actually, should I say, because 1.6 million people almost still voted for him. And I'm going to look at some of the numbers. Let me break them down and be kind of accurate. I'm going off of memory there. But there are so many people who wondered, how did people still vote for Mr. Herschel Walker? Well, there are people who are disciplined when it comes to their party and the politics of the party. And that is that when we are voting, sometimes there are people who, whether they're Democrat or Republican, don't care who the person is. Honestly, they don't care. They would rather vote on party lines so that their person or their party gets the advantage in the state or House or federal legislature. And this is one such example, y'all, where Herschel Walker would have made the Senate, the United States Senate, the federal body, the probably stronger, or is the stronger of the two houses, where a lot of decisions get made for the people of the United States, right? These are powerful positions. And I thought about how much we can celebrate the election, but then I saw the headline, just like you did, just a few hours after the polls closed, that it was actually really a dead heat and it was within the margin of error. And while we were watching, the lead changed between Reverend Warnock and Herschel Walker back and forth. At one time, because of the counties had just been reporting or just had been counted, there was, Mr. Walker in the lead, and then back and forth until we got the final vote tally where Raphael Warnock did defeat Herschel Walker in this hotly contested race. So let's go back and break down what happened. Want to hear what you have to say? Leave a comment in the chat, or if you're a team replay, please leave a comment below this video. Hit the like and share, y'all, so that more people can see it. But yes, we're just doing a quick roundup of the Georgia State U.S. Senate elections, the runoff that was just held. People wondered how the heck Herschel Walker survived all the way until, this election. Well, in Georgia, you have to get at least 50% to win, right? And in the regular election that was held back on November, I think it was 8th, there was nobody with 50%. There was no one who won at least half. And there was another candidate in the race, or other candidates in the race. So there was no one who earned the 50% margin. So here we had the top two vote getters, Reverend Warnock, Raphael Warnock, who had won a 2-year term back in 2020 to fill this seat, was up for re-election for a full 6-year term. Of course, the Senate is elected every 6 years. 6 years, the U.S. House of Representatives. Those seats, those congressional seats, as they're called, are elected every 2 years. So he'll have a longer period of time before another election, thank God, because he has literally ran in 4 elections since 2020. So voters in Georgia made up their mind for this gentleman. And as you can see, he has more experience. He was the person that had the upper hand, I think, with name recognition, some would say, because he had held the office and he had been on the ballot already twice. However, Herschel Walker was a football hero at the University of Georgia, and many people really admired him as a player. But did it translate into the politics, right, of who would vote for a Herschel Walker? Well, I think if we're going to take some notes from, the outcome, what some would call the post-mortem, after everything is said and done, what can we learn from this? It is a really strange thing sometimes how personal issues of a candidate and personal struggles become the focus of the candidacy. And that's exactly what happened with Mr. Walker. Y'all hit the like button as you come in, please. Herschel Walker stepped up to the plate. And again, it takes guts for anyone to run for office, but to run for the United States Senate, knowing that you had, difficulties in the past, public stories that were, very, very messy is the word, accused of and allegedly accused of, domestic violence with his former wife. Then allegations came out allegedly of him paying for terminations of pregnancy. There was just so much more in the headlines. Welcome, everybody. I see you watching. Hit the like button. That took over the discussion. And then there were so many gaffes, so many flubs when he went to events and when he was on the stump. There were so many times everybody who, took this process seriously wondered, especially among Black folks, why did the GOP, why did the Republicans select Mr. Walker as a candidate if he didn't seem adequately prepared to run? That is, when you were running for these very high stakes elections, you need to know the issues. You need to be able to speak in public and eloquently and get your points across. And there were several times where, unfortunately, he failed at that, up to the point where folks thought maybe, in the last couple days of the campaign, he shouldn't even be out there. He was making appearances, but he wasn't having, speaking opportunities. He was doing one-on-one pictures at football games, right? UGA games, and standing in the parking lot. They tried to keep him away from the mic and had other surrogates of the GOP speaking on his behalf. But what really struck a lot of people the most is, thank you so much, Facts Within the Uncomfortable Truth with Bernard S. says, hit the like button, or if you're team replay, hit the like button as you come in and show love, show some support so other people can see the stream in this algorithm. But what struck the most people, y'all, and I'm going to put up a quick breakdown of the vote count, because what I think people really became kind of weary of was how many people did vote for Mr. Walker. If you look, and this was with 94% of the vote reported, 1.6 and change million people still voted for Herschel Walker, right? The difference was only about 25,000. So what do we learn from this? Again, every vote counts. This is the number one thing. When we turn out, we win, right? No matter who's your side, if you're not doing the early voting, if you're not doing absentee voting, or if you're not standing in line on election day, you're going to lose, right? But there is a very, divergent, highly partisan viewpoint as to what is best for our country, and then what is best in terms of leadership, how the leadership looks. So I think, again, as I think about our Republican brothers and sisters who have voted for Mr. Walker, it is for some unimaginable that they would think this person is actually ready to sit in the United States Senate on day one and represent the people. But there, as I said, others who do not care about the individual. It's more so the success of the party and whatever they can do to ensure that their party wins, not the country. The party wins. You'll oftentimes see them support their candidate hardcore, even though literally it seems as if they do not have the qualifications, right? The basic ability to communicate one's message, right? Much less focus on and be able to address issues. It is a difficult job. I'm not going to make it seem like, it's for the faint of heart to step out there and to run for something at this level, right? You really have to have the life experience and the job experience in some way, some form to help you be prepared to perform your duties with a certain amount of competence and professionalism. And there were many people, especially among the Black community, who felt as if it was a joke, as if they were being punked or in some way being insulted by the GOP by fielding somebody such as Herschel Walker on their slate as a candidate. It was really, really shocking. There could not have been a bigger difference in candidates. And this race still proved that there were many who saw, look at the numbers, y'all, value in electing a Herschel Walker, maybe on the policy. And again, I don't even know if he understood or promoted much policy, but for what they feel like he would have done, being, what should I say, a part of the team. Was I insulted? I felt some type of way. I will say that, Gord. Thank you for that question. In my head, I thought there have to be more suitable candidates out there who are on the GOP side than Mr. Walker. If I wanted to see someone who honestly just couldn't handle that public limelight because of inexperience, possibly in being in and around, places where, people who are running for public office, they get scrutinized a lot, and being able to manage that pressure. I think even Mr. Walker's son, who's also a public a person, I wouldn't bring him up unless he wasn't making statements and being highly visible in terms of what he thought. His own son was always, in his words, and I'm paraphrasing, very concerned about his dad even getting in the race in the first place, and knew about a lot of the difficulty he would have addressing certain baggage. So in my head, I think that a part of me believes that maybe there was this thought process, and I cannot put myself in the shoes of some of the folks who are making these decisions, but that folks who believe that a man's color or race is going to attract people above and beyond how well he handles and addresses the issues, I think they were highly mistaken. And I think this also is a little bit of the Trump selected candidate residue, where there is an idea that popularity or that people who had high levels of notoriety would somehow be better and do better in these elections. And it obviously wasn't true, because of many of the people that were endorsed by Trump and pushed by Trump did not end up winning. So I would say, yes, it was a somewhat of a personal affront, because I think it makes Black people look bad when there are people who are not competent and ready for the job on day one, sent out there to make fools of themselves or to in some way embarrass themselves. And I do feel, to a degree, some of that secondhand embarrassment. Like, what is going on, and why is this the person that you selected, knowing that he had difficulty even, like I said, communicating his message? I think there are people who want, and again, I can't speak to party bosses or what their philosophies are, but it would seem that there are people that just want a Black person, not necessarily a competent Black person, a Black person to represent them because they think it will bring over the Black vote or somehow legitimize their party. I just think it's a ridiculous premise. And if, again, you differ from my opinion, that's all right. I'll drop the link. We're here talking about the win. In his acceptance speech, Senator Warnock spoke these words: "The people have spoken," which is so important. This election was smooth. It was fair. There had thankfully been no question about its legitimacy. Mr. Walker, I will give him credit, came on almost immediately after the results were determined to show that he didn't win. And I think maybe he was even relieved. I can't put myself in his shoes, but with all the back and forth and all the craziness that had been, a part of the election cycle for him, I'll tell you this meme. This is what I mean. This is a meme that I saw on Instagram. And this is some folks feeling this type of sentiment. You said I wouldn't lose. Who are you? This is a play on Donald Trump, him being Donald Trump's man, and being the go-to person. And I'm going to actually drop the link. If anybody wants to come up, I will allow you to kind of voice your opinion in the chat. There's a link. You can join the conversation. But yeah, a lot of people felt that there was something missing. And there were folks that says you can't just have, just because Trump liked him, a person join a race and be placed in this kind of position of prominence and scrutiny. So I think there was a lot of missteps there in terms of who was placed in this role and why. And again, I can only speculate. I'm not going to say I make decisions for the GOP, by the GOP, but there were many people that were like, what in the world is going on? Y'all hit the like button. This is SuzetteSpeaks, talking a little bit about what happened last night in Georgia. Wanting to get your opinion, I've dropped the link. If you want to come up, you can share your opinion live here. You don't have to show your face. You can basically like a call in, just show me your face in the back. There was one other one that I thought that was funny. I'm just going to throw it up there just for humor. Forget Deion. If y'all don't know, I did a show Monday about the great coach Prime, Deion Sanders, going to Colorado Buffaloes. Go back and watch that show. But this was posted by Phaedra Parks of the Housewives of Atlanta fame. She said, forget Deion going to Colorado. Don't let Herschel go to D.C. Her words. Thought that was a funny post there. But this was a big thing for Georgians to actually make their voices heard. Places like Fulton County, places like DeKalb County, people that, take the map. And I wanted to put a picture of the map up here because I think it can be very deceiving when you see all the red and you see all the blue and they put up the state and you think the smaller parts of and pockets of blue and those counties represented, smaller amounts of people. You got to remember a lot of the shift that's happening in the South is within large city centers. So even if the map looks completely red with only speckles of blue, those speckles account for way more people than oftentimes there are, and voters than there are in these rural counties that only have a few thousand. Not that they shouldn't count, but just the balance of it. You got to be careful when you're watching the maps, as I was watching them yesterday. But yeah, funny joke here. I saw the link has been dropped. I would love for you guys to come up. But celebrating for so many people the 51st vote in the U.S. Senate that now the Senate Reverend Raphael Warnock has earned. I do feel, and I saw your question here, I did look at Fetterman, especially so many people had questions about him medically after, especially his stroke and not being able to coherently oftentimes express himself. And people know, or if you're not familiar, I'm not a medical professional, but that there are some types of residual effects after people go through like medical emergencies as critical as a stroke. So that did give me pause. Did give me pause. And I think in that same race, I would say so did, Dr. Oz. Mehmet Oz also gave me pause. It wasn't the strongest on either side. But I get your point. But yes, I do feel that way no matter what the party is. I just think that we have to be very careful that we're not trying to make this popularity contest driven as opposed to substance driven. Now, everyone doesn't have the same life experience. People don't have to necessarily all come from politics, all come from, the business world. You got teachers, you got nurses, you got bus drivers who can give us good policy, depending on whether or not they are eager in terms of understanding the issues, whether they are learned. And I'm not talking about school book. I'm talking about reading, understanding what is going on locally. And obviously with some help of, what should I say, campaign apparatus to be ready to address some of these. You're not going to run for office the first time and know everything about all of the issues. You're just not going to. That's just not how it works. But I do think everyday people expect a little bit more than what they received from the media impression, and I'm sure Mr. Walker might be a cool guy in real life. He might actually be super, super nice as a individual, like, to hang with. But people weren't looking for that. People were looking for someone who could fight for their issues and go to Congress, go up there to the United States Senate, and on day one, be able to handle the job. And I think that is pretty much the biggest takeaway. There are a couple more takeaways I just wanted to point out, and that one being that Kamala Harris has at least some breathing room as the tie-breaking vote. She spent a lot more time on Capitol Hill, not necessarily being able to work on her agenda or her portfolio, or basically projects that President Biden has delegated to her. There are so many people that want to see more from her, but I think a lot of her time was spent in and around that Senate being evenly divided. Now, we still have some would call rogue, not always voting with their party, Democrats. So she'll still have to be close, but hopefully with this 51 instead of 50-50, there'll be some breathing room. Another observation I wanted to make was there are people who have pointed out, rightfully so, that if there was another candidate fielded, this might have been a different, fielded by the Republicans, this might have been a different outcome. Georgia might have said, give me a different Republican and I would have voted for him. So I think you have to be very careful. The people of Georgia have to be very careful not to fall asleep and not to think this was, I hope they don't, and I don't think they probably do, because of the razor thin margin. But you have to be very careful not to kind of be lulled into, okay, democracy won. Did it really? Because there are a lot of people, again, looking at the chessboard as a team sport rather than an individual, really could sacrifice having an individual who did not really meet the basic standards for competent leadership. And we're willing to say, you know what, he would vote with the party. I'm ready to vote for him. Again, the numbers don't lie. When you look at that breakdown, as far as who voted where, again, people will be shocked, probably talking about this election well into the future, into the history books, looking at how close it was. Some people can't believe it. Again, Georgia, if you're in the building, if you want to come on up, I've dropped the link. Let me know what you think so that we can understand a little bit more about why folks would vote for Herschel Walker. I would love to hear your opinion on that and how he got 1.6 million people, as well as why you wouldn't vote for him and why some selected the now winner of this race, the Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock. The incumbent gets another, 6 years. Wanted to hear your opinion. You can leave it in the chat, or you could come on up. Last call for this conversation. But yeah, the people have spoken. Did Georgia get it right? Maybe you have a difference of opinion. Maybe you think Georgia got it actually wrong. Maybe you wanted to see a different outcome. Maybe you do believe that there would have been a different outcome had they fielded, had the Republicans sent someone else forward, right? A lot of the Republicans statewide won in Georgia. Let's not forget Stacey Abrams, who laid a lot of this groundwork, did not win her election as governor, right? By several points. Same thing with the attorney general, same things with other statewide offices. So are we looking at a whole different race if they had selected someone besides Mr. Walker? We could be. So this outcome is not a mandate. I'm not saying that Democrats all of a sudden, everybody is on Team Democrat. Mr. Warnock definitely has some work to do. He's going to have to build bridges with 1.6 million people that didn't vote for him, that at the end of the day, he's going to still represent in the U.S. Senate, right? So it's still Georgia. And I think sometimes when we're Atlanta, we forget a lot about the power base that exists, right? The voting block that exists in Southern Georgia, right? Which is a lot more agricultural based, a lot more working class, as well as, I would say, economically very stable people, but they just may not have college degrees, right? So you have a different demographic than an Atlanta or DeKalb or a Fulton County. You have a lot more work to do to reach folks in terms of policy, right? But 1.6 million people still thought Herschel Walker was the better man on election day. That is really, really striking for me. What are your thoughts on it? I'm not going to be before you much longer. Leave your thoughts in the chat. And I got a couple shows I got to tell you about before I sign off. Let's see. Hey, Doug, salute. Driving and listening. One of my moderators. Great to have you, Doug. Thanks for listening in. Team Replay, why don't you hit the like button for me? Make sure everybody sees this stream in their feed. Yes, please call in, says Bernard. Give your opinion. If you're brand new to the channel, welcome. I know a few subscribers have come on over from Roland Martin Unfiltered's channel because I was guest commentator today on The Culture with Faraji Muhammad. Thank you, Faraji, for having me. We had a great show, guys. I'm not even going to thank you. That show was my speed. Like having good conversation. Y'all know I like good conversations with just intelligent, thoughtful people. And we had a round robin today over there on the Roland Martin Network. And I posted it in my community tab, y'all. You can go back and watch it. You can like, you can comment, you can share. But I'll be on there every Wednesday from 3 to 5 speaking about our culture, right? Black culture, right? And why it exists, how it exists, and if we need to be doing stuff to change it and influence it so that we get the best outcomes for the community. I love that show. And it's been going great, y'all. That was my second time over there. So if you just found me by way of Roland Martin Network, welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy to have you. And you can also subscribe over here if you are brand new. Bernard S. in the back. I thought you'd be in class, sir. I'm so happy to see you. One of my faithful supporters over here on the SuzetteSpeaks show. He's also a member of my Patreon. And actually, I'm going to put a Patreon. I think I'm going to do a Patreon survey for this month. We do exclusive members only discussions. And I want to know what's on your guys' heart so I know who I should be looking for to be our Patreon speaker for this month. But I see you. Thank you. Sonona says Herschel Walker's candidacy was insulting. Okay, let's see. Says he was the lowest form of the black man. Wow. His words, and that's how they, quote unquote, see us all. Thank you for your opinion. Good vibes. Nice to see you, TTO. Says, good energy, like punch. You didn't follow the race. No problem. I'm going to bring Bernard up and see what he has to say. How are you this evening, Bernard?
How you doing, sis? I tested out of my physics class last night, so this
is
a little what do you call it? Celebration for myself, right?
Oh, love it. No, when you get to test out, you're doing something right. So welcome.
I'm pretty much going to interview you because you're more into this, and I don't think people know that you're into this. So I think for those that don't understand what's possibly going on. So my question to you, do you think this is a I don't know if I want to use that word, a precursor to what we might have to get to offer to America, if that's on that level? Because really in the presidency world,
yes,
I'm not seeing like no available candidates. And maybe you can correct me and some others on that, but it's like that's scary.
No, super valuable. And you listen, it is a and I get what you're trying to say. Is it a predictor or harbinger or something that shows the possibility of what the future will be like when we talk about different candidates? And I do think this was a very big test for the GOP, for the Republican side, to say we found in their minds, again, I am playing devil's advocate here, a person who is black, a person who is a black man, who is a former football star, right, at the college athlete, that has the most records and just well loved as a player. And we're going to test the water, and we believe there's going to be enough people who like him as the public sports figure that will now translate into them voting for him in this election. And what they didn't bargain for, and what I don't know happened, that's why everybody was kind of like, especially among the black community, raising eyebrows, was how the word I keep using is unprepared. Some people call it like they go even more critical and a little bit more harsher than I probably will, but it was almost a joke sometimes when he was making speeches and going off the cuff. It seemed like part conspiracy theory, part don't know how life works. talking about, China having bad air, and I'm paraphrasing. You guys could go watch the clips, and I don't want to be breathing they bad air, and that air gonna come. We're like, what? Like, have you ever taken a biology class or earth science class? Like, what are you talking about? Like, certain things that came out of his mouth, even if I thought, well, God, maybe he's joking, but he doesn't know it's not the appropriate time and place to be joking, or that it could come across wrong. The fact that you don't even
Right.
have that discernment, sir, says to me you're not ready. So I think the GOP, this across the country, did a test run with where Trump's influence ends or begins. And I think he went with, and you could point out some other folks who ran popularity, Dr. Oz, and the lady, what's her name? Arizona, Carrie Lake, who was a TV producer or TV reporter, very physically attractive, smart, and she was really good with the public speaking because she's just used to it. But that versus like a real substantive candidate. And I think, hopefully the GOP, I don't know what they're going to do. But if they look at it and kind of take notes, they might say to themselves, okay, we tried the celebrity candidacy. Maybe we need to adjust a little bit and get someone who may be Black, maybe a man, and just may be ready for the job. Tim Scott, right? Again, I don't necessarily agree with his politics. You don't have to, but you can look at a Tim Scott and say, this man is ready for, or is ready for Senate. But does the GOP want that type of, thinking man? Do they want that type of polished, ready on day one representation of a Black man in power? There are people that question whether they really do. So I hope there is much more to, them trying to be quote unquote diverse than thinking a Black face, any old Black face, is going to do. It's just not going to. But see though that this was still close. Even with all that baggage, it came up, and I don't want to, go back into this.
But that's the scary part about it, that it was close, number one. But number
25,000 votes or more, roundabout.
You being a lawyer and lead attorney being a lawyer, in that Thurgood Marshall situation that represented us, they didn't send a farmer in there to do a lawyer's job.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Absolutely.
This is the point I'm making. We're crossing too many lines now. You still have to look at Obama and Michelle. That most of the old school politicians are lawyers because they know the law.
Right.
Okay.
And their ability to communicate or write.
Yeah, right. And lead attorney knows, and my English teacher brought this to us. What she says, she's seen it because a lot of lawyer offices hire people like her as a professor because she's seen it where a comma has cost a company $1 million. One comma.
It makes a huge difference in the language. You got to track this language. You got to follow.
Right. So
when they say dot your I's and cross your T's is real.
Exactly. 100%. So it's like now you're going to send somebody. God forgive us that's his main thing is not talking. That's the nicest way I can put it. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for us in the 70s and 80s babies and that grew up in that time, most sports people, we used to joke in school because we knew they could barely talk for years. Okay, so let's just stop. We just got to the point where
you do have some smart athletes. We'll put it out there, but not everybody. That wasn't their academics.
But they never interviewed them.
Yeah,
they never interviewed them, right? But it's like my scary. It's not scary. The thing they're throwing in our face to us.
Yes.
Okay, that was Georgia. To me, it's almost like a little test run of what can come nationwide. Because like right now, we're complaining about Joe Biden, and we already know people are pretty much telling. He probably has an earpiece at this point, and somebody, And I'm not trying to be funny, but we're already there with him. And then you have somebody like Brother Herschel Walker.
That don't belong.
Just not a good communicator who played football.
It's terrible.
Yeah, he played football. You probably got a degree in basket weaving because you went to the NFL, right? So
there was just too much controversy. In addition to that, he just had a lot of baggage. And I'm like, the people who vet people, you have to be anticipating that stuff is going to come out. Stuff is going to come up. Whether or not, I don't expect no politician to have no squeaky clean. I think that's sometimes Black people's unrealistic expectation of our politicians. Everybody wants a Martin Luther King that even on the surface level, because Martin had his baggage too, seemed perfect. But in politics,
Mm-hmm.
is again, if you can give me who you are now with a certain, character with it, it's super important that we can hopefully not, what's the word? I don't sometimes I think it deters people who have good character from getting involved because it's so heavy and messy and people are so nasty now. But I think in his case, I just felt like it was a poor, people didn't do their homework. And so this poor guy, I almost felt sorry for him at one point. It's like hanging out there, kind of blowing in the wind, and he just couldn't get his footing. And then you send out, other people, a Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz to come sit beside him like he's like a hostage and doing every interview with him, almost like a handler. And I'm just kind of like, what do they think this is? We need grown people that can stand on their own too, and express themselves fully, a clear and coherent thought, and talk about issues in a real substantive way. We can't have, this is not a joke. And I think since we had the election of Mr. Trump, things have shifted to where it's more like a popularity contest, and it's not focused on who can really
That's what
handle these issues, who actually has a
it's
plan,
not right.
who's
It's not
equipped.
playing the meat
It's
of it
scary.
because they need to understand. Say it was, and I'm using lawyers because that's what I grew up knowing you guys doing, Senate, whatever, and it makes sense to me, common sense, because law. But you have to. I used to do sound, so you have to treat it like sound. So for those that might not understand, I'll give you the analogy. Suzette's the singer, but the piano in the band is never louder than the singer. You're just to compliment and support them. So what she just said
A
was,
singer on a
it was the
shower, y'all.
opposite. Right. No, but it was the opposite for him, what you just said.
Yes.
You had a whole team like, hey, you can sing. Go ahead and sing. I know we're playing loud, but I just need you to.
Yes. And again, it's puppetry. It feels as if
you go.
we're
Thank
going
you.
back.
I try not to say that.
Yeah, like again, this he had his own idea. Was he able to articulate to himself or to them what he believed in, or did it not matter? You finna join this team. We gonna tell you what to do, bro. Just get over here and do what we tell you. That is what is so scary. And that 1.6 million people actually thought, I'd rather him. Like that is again team ball at its finest. One thing about Republicans, they are very disciplined. They don't really, maybe they held their nose. I'm not going to say everybody didn't see really what it was, but it was more important for them to make a statement in DC and to have another seat with an R and a 50-50 split than to have someone who was actually vetted and fully competent and ready to serve the people. How much million people with his vote and with his voice? That's really what is striking. So we do have a long way to go because fellow Americans here, to the tune of 1.6 million, still voted for him and thought, you know what, I'm going to make this choice.
Tight.
It is. And I think it ended up being 50.2 to 49.8, something like that. This was with 94%. But yet, TTO said people be so relieved that a certain candidate won that they forget to watch them, and they do the same on the other one, and they voted against. Listen, I don't think they're gonna forget to watch Raphael Warnock. For some reason, those other 1.6 million people, I think, are gonna keep a close eye on how he votes. He really has to it feels so bad to say supersede expectations, but I don't think, again, thank God he's no fool. Right, that he's going to be able to step in. He's done it for 2 years and has really stood shoulder to shoulder with other dynamic leaders in the U.S. Senate making decisions for our nation, right? So I'm glad, again, Atlanta, thank you very much. A lot of these very densely populated areas in the center and the northern parts of the state showed up. But we do have a lot of fellow Americans that feel differently and maybe don't like the person, but they was going to vote for their team, right? They maybe can say Herschel can't read or write, but somebody go tell him what to vote for. And so I'll know my policy issues will be addressed regardless. And, it seemed kind of off. Thank you, Sandy B says hello. Hey sis, another great content creator here on YouTube.
How you doing, Sandy B?
Good to have you, sis. She says, I'm watching these candidates a bit more heavily these days. You're not the only one. There are so many people that, again, stay away from politics. And we don't want a country where good people stay away from politics because everybody gets broken down and, rocks thrown at them for the entire candidacy for their entire race and beyond. So we want to make a civil, what should I say, discourse available so that you can disagree with me, but you ain't got to hate me and try to cut me down at every turn. But you can, point out the flaws. But it has gotten so dirty that people
I want
don't
to ask
care.
you a question.
Sure.
Because now I'm thinking about this, and I want your professional and personal opinion also, all in one for everybody. It seems like it got jokeable when President Trump got in office. Because after that, I have not seen nothing that's even that that seems feasible to me. And I'm not like a lawyer like you or most lawyers. And I'm just like I'm just sitting here thinking about what you're talking about. But do you agree like the real last one was like the first time that Obama went in, or the second time, his second term? Because I have not seen nothing serious after Trump.
Yeah.
I really haven't. It's like we're all like, Joe Biden can't be president. We were all saying that. I don't care who you are. Everybody was saying that.
Uncle
Republicans
Joe,
and Democrats.
Uncle
But
Joe
it's like
no,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
it's
Finish your point.
sad.
Yeah.
I mean, but do you agree with that? How do you feel
I
about
do.
that?
I will definitely read this, guys, and I'm gonna last call, please, for the panel. TTOO says all these campaign managers, handlers, and those and all these campaign managers and handlers, and they chose a bad candidate. Maybe Herschel Walker was used as a beta test candidate. Okay, thank you for your opinion.
That's what I think.
Yes, Cartel, thank you for your opinion. Says the people have once again spoken. Democracy has prevailed. To your point, Bernard, I do think Trump changed a lot about politics, right? What was more so, again, you have to have the charisma, okay? You have to have a little bit of the, relatability. Some people may even say it factor, right? It's something where, people you're drawn to them. You know a leader when you see one. I think he changed the game. And this kind of, and I don't say it in a, like, where people hear the word con man. Con man comes from confidence man. His style of confidence man as so-called leadership has kind of taken over the public perception of what leadership is. No, you got to have the quietest man in the room be the strongest man in the room. You could have the quietest, approach to a problem be the best solution. You don't have to be loud and boisterous and flamboyant at every turn, right? But his style, so-called style of leadership and style of running for president has changed up, again, what we have thought of as normal when it comes to what we tolerate in the public. So now you have people that ain't got a lick of like real policy understanding,
not even a base
or basic, business or whatever, political or however you gain your life experience. And they think, oh, if I could just do a little song and a little dance and be confident with it, people gonna vote for me. No, this is time for, really where we are. And again, you can say what you want about Uncle Joe and his age and all that. Thank God for his experience. He's won a lot of battles. Like, because he knows that Senate so well, people will say, oh, we need young people. We need a mixture. Because he knows how to get legislation passed, he has had like one of the most effective 2 years in among any president. And people not giving him the credit for that. And again, I am concerned also about him aging, and I just want new blood. Thank God the Democrats.
It was more. Yeah, it was more the health we were worried about.
You were
it
about
wasn't the
but
experience,
that
right? It wasn't the
institutional
experience.
knowledge counts for something, because he know everybody, and he knows how to, as they say, whip the votes, get the votes. When they say majority minority whip, is get the people to buy in and to count on their vote when it comes time to vote on issues on the floor. But yeah, we need a combination. I think there are now, the bar has been lowered, is the best way I can summarize that. So we are getting a lot of people who wouldn't dare come forward in years past. Now, oh, Trump could be president? Let's go. Now everybody thinks, I mean, Barack Obama also inspired a lot of people. Everybody was running for office after Barack Obama on the local level and state levels. But I think it is inviting a different type of blueprint to, the political race. And it's really kind of scary, because again, it's not people that necessarily feel like they have to have a certain amount of experience one way or another. They're just showmen and showwomen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's read a few of the comments. Mr. Leem says, the Black community, the same cycle, same problem with Warnock, single moms killing blank. Okay, thank you for your opinion. Cartel says, Walker is like like the radio. Oh Jesus, you remember that? You remember that movie? That's your opinion. Thank you. I forgot because I was
my God.
I thought he was like on the radio. No, I remember that movie Radio. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. He should have got an Oscar for that.
Yeah. Exactly. No, that was a great movie. Doug said, "I'm done."
Now that's where I wanted to stop. That's where I wanted to stop.
Sure.
Because that's where the problem comes in. Not him. But people are so tired of the foolishness that they're done with it. So you're not going to get those votes because all I see, well, what some people see is a act. It's like I'm just saying.
What they said, I see the comment. The evil, best of two evils. A lot of times you're just wondering. Again, 1.6 million though held their nose, if they even held it, and said, you know what? I'm going to vote for my team. I don't care what this individual is like and his shortcomings, right? And his heavy comings, like heavy baggage. I'm still going to vote for the team. 1.6 million people still said that, right? So yeah, it does make those of us who care about quality of a candidate, experience in a candidate, and substance of a candidate a little bit more weary. And it's not going to change, y'all. It's probably going to get maybe another cycle. I don't know if it'll get worse in the long term, but if it stops winning, maybe people will go back to, what should I call it? Like, I don't want to say the party's choices or people who have come up through the ranks, like a Hakeem Jeffrey. Shout out to new leadership, younger leadership in the Democrat side. When they lost control of the House this past midterm, they elected 3 new leaders. I mean, shout out to Nancy Pelosi, trailblazer. The gentleman from South Carolina. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at his face right now. And I think another person, I think that was over the age of 80. And I'm looking and I'm like, these are heroes. But we just need to also have new leadership injected, as has been done through the election of Hakeem Jeffries, Pete Aguilar, and others who are on, like, you know, the younger-ish side. Right. By younger, I mean like in their 50s and 40s.
Doug wants to know what, and maybe we've missed it, but Doug wants to know, how was Joe Biden effective in the last 2 years?
Okay.
He doesn't see how.
Well, he had landmark legislation passed in several different areas when it comes to the infrastructure bill. Billions, if not trillions of dollars have been now spent to improve bridges, et cetera, all over our country. I'm talking about all of our fiber optics, cables, et cetera. When I think about things like programs like the, it's called the, basically it gave internet to every person in the United States at a very affordable price, subsidized by the federal government. It's like the ACP.
Is it called the Infrastructure Act?
Yes, that was a huge win. There were also environmental wins, I think, with that bill, things that have to be brought up to code, et cetera, in terms of making jobs in this country and also improving like where we live and breathe, right? The infrastructure, the buildings, the roads, the lights, the utilities, all of this was passed.
And then they also put Inflation Reduction Act. This is in the chat.
I'm going fast, y'all, because I got an hour, so I'm about to get off of here. But yeah, all of these big pieces of landmark legislation, you can't tell me. And he's fighting for the 10,000 to 20,000 for college forgiveness. Every minute you look, there's laws passed, like effectively use his majority, right? The Democrats had the majority in the House and in the Senate for the last 2 years. So when we look at having laws passed, you know, new policies implemented, he's done more in the last 2 years than many presidents do in 4 to even 8. So we can do it on a longer version of this, Doug, but that's just a taste. And you can look at Biden's accomplishments. I know you know, but there are many more. Let me see. Ross Perot, take us back to TTO. was the precursor to it. You remember Ross? I remember Ross Perot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was an interesting character, but that whole field that ran with Donald Trump, rest in peace, Herman Cain, and all these other ones with like kind of like this quirkiness that didn't seem real. It almost seemed like it was a joke, right? Not to say Herman Cain was a joke, but I'm just saying like it didn't have the polish that we had seen in decades before, where a leader had to kind of come a certain way. I don't know if it's a reflection of the population now and how we are in society, how we think. Are they just a reflection of what we like, what we're like now? I'm not sure. Sonana says, everything I hear people talk about, the lesser of two evil, both are the same. American inexplicably ends up with the worst option every time. Let's go, Doug. Last call. I'm about to get off here, y'all. But final comments in the chat, please. If you have a difference of opinion, it is welcome. Yes, I did not forget the 94 crime bill. I have not forgotten this and how it has ruined communities. Listen, there is no perfect person in this world. And I agree with you. That was horrific at the time. But at the time, Black leaders were asking for it if we want historical accuracy. I'm talking about church leaders. I'm talking about Black politicians. Community leaders were afraid. We can go into that history. But looking back now, hindsight is 2020. Awful. 100%. But if you look at the time, Black leadership was calling for this. Okay, we're gonna
and to add to that, a guy I used to drive for, he owned a dump truck business. Well, he was a sheriff for 12 years.
Yes.
And he says, I can use everybody's hands that's around me, where two people can go with the same identical charge, and you know which one is going to jail and which one's going to rehab. He said it ran him crazy and he got out of it. He gave up 12 years of being a sheriff. He said, Bernard, he said, that person's going to rehab. That guy, same as that charge. Same as that charge.
Yes.
Going to jail, and he's almost getting the max.
But listen, Biden didn't create that. That is a product of our system. That is a product of our system. We can talk about criminal justice reform, y'all. Oh, we got it over here. Suzette Speaks Show. We are winding down, though. I'm going to read the final comments. Hey, Jeremy. Good to have you. Hey, Michael. Thank you for the super chat. Supporting the contest says, Suzette, I am 55. And in my opinion, it's time for young people, to run the country with fresh ideas. RDOF was for the rural people. The only thing I don't like about Biden is he's letting the economy go. There are some people that way differ with you, Michael. And thank you again for showing the love on the super chat. Sponsor of today's show.
Keeping it real.
And
keeping it real.
Yes.
Yeah, because me and somebody else was talking. It might have been me and Mandrell, but I was like, Mandrell, you have to admit about the two old guys that's on the Muppet Show. I said, that's the problem. I said, you got the Muppet Show old guys and all these positions. He said, Bernard, you're right. And so I agree with Michael on that part. You gotta get the two old guys for the Muppet Show.
Listen, if we didn't have and I gotta look up his name. Oh my God, South Carolina Senator. Oh my gosh, y'all don't kill me. I'm looking at his name right now with the glasses, and he helped Biden win. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at his name. It slips me right now. But nonetheless, I agree that there is seniority for a reason, that people who have been here longer know a lot more about life if they've learned. But yeah, representing North Carolina. I'm saying South Carolina. Oh my gosh.
Why are you looking that up?
I'm looking it up real quick.
No, you're good. So while you're saying looking that up, it's also what you just said, though, Suzette. I agree 100%.
Claiborne, thank you, Claiborne.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
What you just said, I did with my grandfather, but the question is, the people you're talking about, the old senators, who is sitting at their feet? See, that's the question.
Nobody who's
sitting at their feet and gaining all that.
If Nancy Pelosi can sit up to about 80-something years old, people don't want to let go of power. Not that she wasn't revolutionary in what she did as a woman speaker, as the first revolutionary. 20 years of presiding over that chamber and whipping it, like I said, know it inside and out, and getting legislation passed and standing up to Mr. Trump during her time. She was a phenomenal leader. I don't take away anything in terms of her leadership ability from her. But at some point, Jim Clyburn, Nancy Pelosi, and them. Love them. They are to be
But that's
respected.
what I'm
Again,
asking. Who's the
they
Suzette
got a
sitting at their
few.
feet
They got a
learning
few.
that? You
They
know,
got a few.
like
But we can't have. But the change, like I said, has started. Hakeem Jeffries of New York has now been elected minority leader. And again, the people who are paired up with him, the second and third in command, are also of the newer generation. But yeah, we have to have it on both sides. An
yeah,
injection of youthfulness, of
yeah.
just again reflecting the new demographics in the electorate, people who are now voting and who now understand and hopefully care about what's going on. You also have to have that the not only the boomer but Y and Z and everybody else
That's
in
what
the
I was about to
country.
ask you. So, and I love asking you this because I know you know this, and I'm sure it helps you sharpen your skills. But would you agree that especially with the boomers, we're losing a generation, so we got to gain that generation back somewhere. And I'm Generation X, even with my son and my daughter's generation, right? So it's like people need to remember, or do you believe that baby boomers are still the most voters out of everybody
Oh,
because of?
100%.
And see, that's
Yeah,
the issue. Then you
there's
see what I'm
no,
saying?
we can't, like I said, the largest, most, what should I say, firm and reliable voting block is still going to be people between like 35 and 75, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that side
Mm-hmm.
of the age range of our country is always going to have, their policies paid attention to, because even though younger voters are now coming of age, they're less
Mm-hmm.
reliable, right? They're only,
Mm-hmm.
certain percentages, depending on what election, what part of the country, you might get
Mm-hmm.
5%, you might get 10, you might even get 20% of that 18 to 28 demographic to show up, but it's just not as
Okay.
consistent. However, I believe if you give people something to vote for, they will in fact show up. And again, this past election with Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker, both sides had something to vote for different reasons. And so when you have people that are really, smart, and again, for me, that's the type of candidate I want. No nonsense, but yet relatable, empathetic, good character, have done something in their life, and hopefully have what should I say, shown a track record of
Mm-hmm.
certain thoughts or alignment with my values. I'm down.
Right.
But I think
Right.
we put ourselves in a kind of box sometimes when it comes to people, I don't know, wanting the song and the dance and not looking for the substance. So
Right.
we have this popularity culture on social media that is drifted in, thanks to the election of Donald Trump and others, our
Mm-hmm.
political atmosphere and our political, which I call ethos, the way we think about politics now. We want looking the part in more than one way, and sometimes not even a
Instead of
good
doing the
way,
part.
instead of
Right.
doing it and being able to kind of manage the work ahead, right? You could talk that
Right.
talk, and sometimes the talk sound crazy and people laugh at it, but it's
So
serious. It's really
so let
serious.
me ask you this from your experience. Do you agree? It you just said something that makes me always spark more questions. I know you got to go, but I know you can answer this.
Yes, go
And
ahead.
I know this is what you do, so I know you're going to enjoy this. I'm enjoying it. So, y'all, I'm pretty much interviewing my sister here. It seems like people don't know what to vote for until after something happens. Do you
Mm.
agree with that?
Well, I
And
think
to me, that's what I've
sometimes,
been seeing because
yeah.
it's just like, oh, we should try to pass this bill and vote for that. And I was like, you get what I'm saying? I've been seeing that a lot in different situations, not just the police brutality and all that, but even other situations. It's like people don't even know what to vote for until it's too late or something has happened to cause you to vote for it or try to pass it through,
Well, I
the
think
house
that's
and stuff.
a wonderful way to kind of end this discussion, because I think this race even had elements of what you just talked about. When the general election was held back in November,
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of people, especially in our communities, Black communities around Georgia, that didn't think it was going to be close, didn't think they needed to
Mm-hmm.
worry about it. And we
Mm-hmm.
ended up with nobody getting the 50% margin. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
look, and I don't have the breakdown here, I would have brought a slide if I knew the question was coming. How
No, I'm
many
sorry.
more? No, it's perfect. How many more young people right? Especially young Black people came out. How many more folks and different, there's always a breakdown. We love politics and we like to tell people, we're one America, but we love to break it down oftentimes with demographics and race and gender and whatnot. But he stimulated more, Reverend Warnock, and I would say Herschel Walker stimulated more people just on the Herschel Walker side, not enough people for his cause. So like I said, if people pay attention, I know it can be almost like, oh man, I mean, I talked to several people today about it. A homeboy who I haven't spoken to in a while was like, I was like, oh, I have a show on Roland Martin Network. I'm getting ready for what's up, quickly, taking his question. And then he was like, I said, I'm going to be talking about the race in Georgia. And he was like, oh, those two Black guys. So I'm like, this is my life. And to him, it's just those two Black guys. And I can't blame him. He lives in Florida. He doesn't live in Georgia. He's a hardworking guy, 10,000, businesses and trying to, make ends meet. But there are people that genuinely in this life have gotten so busy with just trying to maintain, just trying to stay afloat. Yes. They don't have the time nor the energy. And some people will say it's probably by design that, especially where I live, in Florida, things have gotten so expensive. I just went on a walk and I met this Haitian couple, and I'll end on this, Bernard. It was talking about how they had lived in Miami for like maybe 10 years-ish, but been in the country 20. Came down here, own a house, etc. And we were talking about just how taxes have gone up so much, property taxes, sales tax, every part of your life is now much more what should I say, heavy and complex and costly. So much so that, and we could talk about inflation, not going to open that can of worms, but the point is there's so much pressure on individuals right now to just make ends meet that paying attention to politics is like, for those of us who are like, can afford to have the luxury of. I couldn't even blame my homeboy for not knowing what was going on. I was getting ready to tell him. I'm like, he don't care. He just want to ask me a quick question and go on with his day. But yeah, there are people who I think in their quest of just trying to stay afloat in their life, that they are not having the luxury of going to knock on doors, much less get involved in the political process by simply casting a vote, right? And we have to do our part. Honestly, those of us who are informed or even care and want to get informed to help get those people back into the system. I'm telling you, this way it's almost being driven to that, so that the electorate that could make shifts in our country is either blocked at the voting booth or becomes more apathetic and doesn't care enough to go. But that, I'm telling you, then we're going to get that sneak attack and some major legislation is going to pass. And then we're going to wake up, oh no, how they did that?
Well, see, and you might know about this to end it. They were talking about that. Two things happened that day. David Hasselhoff, well, back then, CD was supposed to drop when OJ was being chased. And there was a law passed while all of that was going on and that people were talking about. And I forgot what it was. Somebody in the chat might know, but they were so focused on OJ that law got in it. I think it affected us in some way, but there was a law going on at that time, but they just showed everything on OJ. So they had the smoke screen up, but the fire was really over here. So I'm going to end it like this, asking my sister, I would like to have you on my show.
Let's do it.
For you to explain on Facts and the Uncomfortable Truth how important what is what and how to vote and where does it stand, because we're not taught that.
Absolutely.
And that's what my channel is about. I don't even know. So I trust somebody like you who does political debates, because like your friend that just called, you're like, yeah, okay. But everybody was not worried about nothing until 2 years ago, until they say your butt got to stay home unless you're essential.
Exactly. Oh, wait, the government has a lot to do with your life. Oh, yeah, they're spending your tax dollars. Oh, yeah, they're taxing you more every day. No, absolutely. People don't pay attention till they have to. So I would be happy to do that, Bernard. I'm going to let you go, sir, because I'm supposed to be out of here now. But I appreciate you. Thank you, Andre Terry, one of my other fantastic subscribers and supporters.
Always trusting everybody in the chat. Peace to all y'all.
Yes, y'all go over to Bernard and you please subscribe to this brother Facts and the Uncomfortable Truth. You see him there with Bernard. As Bernard, always a pleasure having you, and I hope to see you back. And let's make that happen.
We'll yes, do it. I need to know your schedule. I'll talk to you on the backside.
Absolutely, would love to do a collab. Thank you, Bernard. Appreciate you, brother, and thank you guys for this look at what happened in the Georgia election. Are you paying attention, guys? Because guess what? 2 more years, we are going to be doing a lot of preparation in the meantime for what comes up for the next presidential election. Final thoughts. I love this. What was this comment saying? No one over 65 should run? I don't know about that. And I believe people over 65 shouldn't be able to. These are folks that are running the country into the ground. Well, they pay their taxes and they paid it for a very long time. But understand your point of view. Thank you for sharing it. TZO says, no party ever does anything about oil taxes. Have you forgotten the vaccine, says Doug. So much more to say. I hear this loud and clear. Timothy says, you mean Atlanta has spoken. Oh, my. That first part, anyway. His opinion goes on to say, nobody else in Georgia wanted this clown. The state needs to break loose. Wow. From Atlanta altogether. Thank you for your opinion. Appreciate y'all. You guys are super opinionated tonight. Thank you. You can leave your comments afterwards on this subject. Were you happy? Were you upset? Were you exhilarated? Were you saddened with the election of Senator Raphael Warnock, or even by the closeness of the election? Coming up tomorrow, y'all, we have a great show. I hope you will join me. Let me make this big. Y'all come on back. I have a guest blogger, lifestyle blogger, who will be up. Let me move that banner. Who will be on deck tomorrow talking about dating after divorce. Her name is Gioma Kim Ogu. She's out of Texas, and I was following her blog on Instagram and found her very interesting. She's a divorcee. She is a mom, and she's going to be talking about her dating life and tips for people who want to date and get back in the game after a divorce. Very interesting stuff. And then Saturday, can't wait to have Rod Eric on for the first time exclusively. For a one-on-one anyway. He's been on the channel, but for a one-on-one, my good friend here on YouTube, Mr. Rod Eric, will share his journey in the red pill space. If you don't know what the red pill space is, it's all good. I'll teach you about it. He'll teach you about it. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to teach you about it. I've learned about it since I've become a YouTuber, but he is active in that space. He's active on the fresh and fit side of it. And I want to talk to him about how he became red pill. And I got a couple other great shows coming up, but go back and watch this show, y'all. Just want to throw this up there. This was such a good show last Saturday. Is Having Children Smart. Security Boss. Unsolicited Security Boss was my guest, and we had a fantastic discussion about the decrease of the childbirth rate or birth rate actually has to do with children, so it's redundant to say childbirth rate of the birth rate, and why there are more adults now than ever in our history in the United States who are living single, never been married, which I think is good. It's a lot of us out here, but not having kids, right? And what it does to our community. Great discussion. If you missed it, go back and watch Team Replay. Is Having Children Smart was a fantastic show, y'all. I will see you for much more wonderful conversations right here on the SuzetteSpeaks show. Patreon, look out for a survey. Those of you who are part of my members only community, which gets exclusive access to when I'm going to events and also exclusive conversations, one-on-one with myself, with a smaller group, more intimate group, so we can kind of be more open and kind of transparent. I appreciate each and every one of you who are members of my Patreon. Go to patreon.com/SuzetteSpeaks to support my content. And if you also want to support via Cash App, y'all know what it is. $SuzetteSpeaks. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Please do like, please do share. And thank you. Special thanks to this gentleman for coming up. Facts and the Uncomfortable Truth with Bernard, rocking with me tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a great evening, and thanks for watching.